I used to be a hero, you know. The kind of guy that could swoop in and save the day. The kind of guy that people looked up to, admired, and respected. But things change. Time change. Being a hero ain't what it's cracked up to be. Sure, the glory and the accolades are nice, but at what cost? The constant danger, the stress, the pressure to always do the right thing. It takes a toll on you, you know? So I hung up my cape and traded it in for a plow. Now, I'm just a farmer. Simple life, simple pleasures. No worrying about saving the world and fighting off the bad guys. Just me, my crops, and the open sky. That's when I saw her. She was leaning against a fence post, a white tulip in her hair. The light caught her just right, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. She was a vision in red, with full lips and a figure that can make a man lose his mind. She looked at me with piercing green eyes, and I felt like she was seeing straight through me. She had a proposition I could not refuse. She wanted me to do one last heroic act, to save someone. She said that I was the only one that could do it, and that I was the hero that the world needed. And for a moment, I almost refused. But then I remembered why I became a hero in the first place. The thrill, excitement, and the challenge. It was all still there, waiting for me to agree to this job. And then I realized that I missed it. Missed being the one that could make a difference in this world. And then there was her. Something about her made me want to take the job. Maybe it was her beauty, maybe it was her charm, or maybe it was just the thrill of the challenge. Whatever it was, I knew that this could be my chance to prove that I'm still the hero that I used to be. As I arrived at the crime scene, I saw that it was a complete mess. The broken window and the absence of guard suggested that someone had broken in and stolen something valuable. But my attention was immediately drawn to the victim lying on the ground, bleeding out from a deep stab wound. To my shock, I recognized him as Snudenbo, an old friend of mine. I had to act fast to save his life. I quickly assessed the situation and discovered that the 3 shards were missing. The thief must have come in for the shard. But what had gone wrong? Why did they attack my friend? I scrambled for a golden apple. After what seemed like an eternity, I managed to stabilize Snudenbo. He was still in critical condition, but he was alive. I breathed a sigh of relief, but I couldn't forget about the stolen shards. I knew that I had to start my investigation immediately. Every second that passed was a second that the thief had to get away. I made a vow to myself. I would save my friend and get the stolen shards back, no matter what it took. Because that's what heroes do. They protect their friends and fight for justice, even in the face of danger and uncertainty. I stormed into Captain Longnose' office, my mind boiling with anger. The guards were supposed to be stationed at the crime scene that night, but they were absent. What were they hiding? My gut told me that something was amiss, and I wasn't leaving until I got answers. The captain looked nervous. He knew he was in trouble. I didn't care. I needed to know what had happened that night. He scribbled the address of the guard who was supposed to be on duty on a piece of paper and handed it to me. I snatched it from him, my mind already racing with possibilities. Who was the thief? And why did they attack my friend? Was there a larger conspiracy at play? As I made my way to the guard's address, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a trap. But I was determined to get to the bottom of this, no matter what it took. I would find out the truth, and those responsible would pay for their crimes. As I watched the guard's house, I couldn't help but question what I was doing. Was this even legal? Technically, I didn't have a warrant to be here, but I couldn't wait around for the police to take action. Time was running out, and I needed to find out what had happened to my friend. But was I willing to risk my reputation and career for this? I had worked hard to build a name for myself as an upstanding citizen, and one false move could ruin everything. What if I was wrong? What if this stakeout turned out to be a dead end? But as I watched the guard's house, my resolve only grew stronger. I had to know the truth, no matter the cost. My friend deserved justice, and I was the only one who could get it for him. The guard left his home as the sun began to set. My eyes were fixated on his every move, watching as he nervously looked over his shoulder, as if sensing that he was being followed. The streets were dark and desolate, the perfect cover for someone trying to avoid detection. I followed the guard through the labyrinth of alleyways. As we drew closer to our destination, my heart began to race. I could hear the sound of my own footsteps echoing through the empty streets, and I knew that any misstep could give me away. Finally, we arrived at an abandoned warehouse. My gut instinct told me that this was it, the epicenter of the criminal operation. The warehouse was eerily quiet, the only sound the soft hum of machinery. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A sugar factory, hidden in plain sight. This was bigger than I could have imagined, and I knew that I had stumbled onto something dangerous. My eyes scanned the room for any signs of life, but there was no one here. No workers, no guards, nothing. As I investigated the machinery, I suddenly felt a sharp blow to the back of my head. Everything went black, and I fell to the ground. My thoughts scattered. When I regained consciousness, I was bound and gagged, my body aching from the beating I had taken. As I struggled against my bonds, I knew I had to find a way out. But the darkness closed in around me. I couldn't help but wonder if this was the end, if I had finally met my match in this shadowy world of crime and corruption. As a blindfold tightened around my eyes, I could hear muffled voices in the distance. I strained to listen, but the only thing I could make out was a name: Miller. The syllables hung in the air, like the stench of cheap perfume in a seedy bar. I knew I wasn't meant to hear it. It was a slip of the tongue, a careless mistake. But that name, Miller, sent a shiver down my spine. It was a piece of the puzzle, a clue to the mystery that had consumed me. The silence was soon scattered by the sounds of fists hitting flesh. Someone was fighting back, taking on the thugs. One by one they fell to the ground, their bodies thudding against the floor. And then the beating stopped. The silence was deafening, and I was left to wonder who had come to my rescue. Was it a friend or a foe? Someone with their own agenda or a true ally in my fight for justice? I could feel the ropes around my wrists slackening as whoever had rescued me untied me. And then, finally, the blindfold was removed, and I was left blinking in the dim light. There was a white tulip lying on the ground in front of me, a symbol of hope and peace in the midst of this dark and dangerous world. My rescuer was nowhere to be seen, but the message was clear. There were still good people in this world, people who were willing to fight for justice and stand up to the forces of evil. And for the first time in a long while, felt a glimmer of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, the good guys could win in the end. I stumbled out of the abandoned building, still shaking from the ordeal that I had just endured. And then I heard the sound of approaching footsteps, a soft clicking of heels on the pavement. I turned, and there she was, the dame who had brought me into this mess in the first place. Together, we made our way back to my house. She was guiding me through the darkened streets. I could feel her watching me, studying me as we walked. As we reached my front door, she gave me a small smile and disappeared into the night, leaving me alone with my thoughts. But somehow, I felt less alone than I did before. And as I made my way inside and slumped down into my chair, I couldn't help but wonder, what came next? Would I be drawn back into its dark world of crime and deceit? Or was there a chance for redemption, for a new beginning? Only time would tell. I was nursing my wounds and trying to make sense of what had just happened. That mysterious rescuer who had saved my skin. I couldn't shake off the feeling that it had been a woman. And then there was that Miller character. That was my best lead, but I was still not sure of who he was. All I knew was that he was connected to those stolen shards. The more I thought about it, the more questions I had, and the more I realized that I was in way over my head. And then it hit me. Miller. It's not a name. It's a profession. I was getting closer to the truth. I took a deep breath, steeled myself for what was to come, and headed back out into the night. I was going to the mill that night. It was time to confront the Miller. I had my trusty sword, and I was ready for whatever would come my way. I wasn't going to be taken down like a chump again. I was going to find out what had been going on, and put an end to all of this. The mill loomed ahead of me, dark and foreboding, like a castle of shadows. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to face whatever lied ahead. I entered the mill, and the smell of unrefined sugar filled my nose. No one was here. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was swimming in a pool of danger and deceit. Regardless, I pressed forward, knowing that the truth was the only thing that could set me free from the mess I found myself in. The air down here was damp and heavy, and the stench was overpowering. It was like I was descending into the very bowels of hell, and what I found was even worse than I could have imagined. Innocent people, locked up like animals, forced to work day and night. This was what they had been doing with all that sugar, using it to fund their criminal enterprise and exploiting the vulnerable. It made my blood boil. But I couldn't let my emotions get the better of me. I needed to stay focused and figure out a way to bring these bastards to justice. I was not leaving here until I had uncovered every last piece of evidence and freed these people from their chains. It was a risky move, but I had been in tough spots before. I had faced down the worst of the worst and came out on top. And tonight would be no different. These criminals may have thought they had the upper hand, but they were about to find out they had messed with the wrong person. I knew I was getting closer to the source of this illegal operation. I drew my sword, ready for whatever might come my way. As I entered a room full of crates, my suspicions were confirmed. But before I had a chance to investigate further, I was under attack. I blocked his first strike with my sword just in time, but I could feel the weight of his blade against mine. He was strong, and I could tell he had training, but I wouldn't go down without a fight. I swung my sword. He was taunting me, telling me I had no chance of stopping him. But I knew better. I had faced tougher opponents than him, and I was not about to let him win. As we continued to battle, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the adrenaline pumping through my veins. I knew I needed to end this quickly, before he had a chance to escape. The fight was vicious, and I was on the losing end until I found an opening and took it. The thief fell to the ground, lifeless. I couldn't help but feel a touch of guilt. It was a necessary evil, but an evil nonetheless. I recovered the shards and noticed a mysterious notebook the thief was carrying. It was too risky to open it here, so I pocketed it and took a quick glance around the room. That's when I saw it, the white tulip, lying among the crates of sugar. I couldn't shake off the feeling that the white tulip was more than just a coincidence. It had appeared twice now, once when I was rescued, and now here, deep within the criminal hideout. I had to get out of here before more trouble found me. As the sun rose, I made my way back to the Wizard Tower, the shards carefully tucked away in my bag. I felt a sense of relief knowing that they would be returned to their rightful place, that they wouldn't be used for some nefarious purpose. When I arrived, Snootenboob was there, looking much better than before. He gave me a small nod of acknowledgement, and I returned it. I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction as I carefully placed back the shards where they belonged. It was a small victory in a world full of darkness and danger, but a victory nonetheless. The streets are quiet now. The darkness of the night has given way to the first light of dawn. And as I walk these streets, I can't help but think about the choices I've made. The shards have been returned to the rightful place, but at what cost? How many lives were ruined because of them, and how many more will be ruined in the future? As I walk, I can't help but think back to my life as a farmer. Days spent tilling the soil, tending to the crops and watching them grow. It was a simpler life, one without the danger and intrigue that I found myself embroidered in. But as much as I long for that simple life, I know that I can't go back to it now. The tulip, that innocent flower that seemed to follow me throughout this whole ordeal. Perhaps it's a symbol, a reminder that there is still beauty and goodness in this world, even amidst the darkness. Or a clue to a greater mystery I've yet to uncover. Or maybe it's just a flower, with no greater meaning than its beauty. These questions will haunt me for a long time, but for now, I'll keep walking these streets, trying to make sense of the mess I've made, trying to find some kind of redemption. Because in the end, that's all any of us can do. Try to make up for the mistakes we made and hope that someday we can find our way back into the light.